one of my holes is still active.
Wow.
That's an interesting thing to take that snip.
Hello everyone. Hey, have you ever heard of this guy Joe Rogan? Just kidding, of course you have. Like so many from my demographic, I love me some Joe Rogan. Like, the dude is the voice of our times, really, and arguably he has the most popular podcast of all time. But again, you already knew this. That is not the point of this video. Rogan is often a great resource on a variety of subjects, or he at the very least talks with people who are great resources on a variety of subjects. But unfortunately, one of Joe's recent episodes presented both some good information as well as some problematic information, at least from my point of view. In episode 1586, Joe decided to give his friend Tony Hinchcliffe some advice on how to bulk up and put on some muscle.
We've talked about this before. Like
Yeah.
that you wanted to get bigger. You wanted to bulk up.
Yeah. It's really, I've tried before. Like, I've tried actual...
But you haven't.
Joe is obviously no stranger to fitness. Like, the dude is a beast. Which is why I find it particularly strange that he came to the conclusions that he did. Perhaps he should lay off the hooch when giving fitness advice, eh? But anyway, let's get to it, huh?
You have to get a trainer. You have to get someone who's going to show you the stuff to do and make you do the work.
Okay, yes, a personal trainer is rarely a bad idea. I mean, as a personal trainer myself, I definitely encourage it for some. I mean, it's not going to be for everyone, but if you found that you have issues staying on track with your goals, or you're not achieving your goals after, a certain amount of time, definitely investing in a personal trainer can be a fantastic idea. I mean, a good personal trainer should be an expert in their field, and with their guidance, success should be around the corner.
Well, you have to lift heavy things. There's no way around it. And that's one of the things that changes your structure.
He then goes on to suggest that Tony lift heavy things, which is vague, but it's not necessarily bad advice. There are a series of factors that determine muscle growth, and, lifting heavy weights is going to be one of them. Like, progressing to heavier weights, that's definitely a very, very optimal way to build muscle.
Deadlifts is a big one, because deadlifts forces your whole body to work, right?
Joe then goes on to show his love for the deadlift, which is one of my personal favorite compound movements. So good on you, Rogan. Show that deadlift some love. Great stuff, great stuff. But then things start to get a little wacky as Joe begins to imply that one of the best ways to build muscle is to force feed yourself, essentially until you're sick.
And then you have to give your body, no choice, right? So you have to feed it as much food as possible. You have to literally stuff yourself. You get sick.
I take big issue with this. Intentionally becoming overweight or obese has been shown to not necessarily be optimal for building muscle. It's not really necessary. You don't need to be in this absurd calorie surplus in order to put on muscle effectively. It's kind of nonsense. And of course, being overweight or obese comes with a host of health issues in and of itself. So not my recommendation, that's for sure. My best results came from steady progress at a healthy body fat.
And you got to lift massive amounts of weight. And you got to do it for low reps. If you really want to get bigger, you got to lift 2 and 3 repetitions.
The problematic advice continues as Joe recommends a 2 to 3 rep range as the best way to achieve muscle growth, which that's just not true. I mean, ask every bodybuilder ever.
Body is not used to maybe the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th rep with a certain weight. So that makes the body grow then, going through this pain barrier, experiencing pain in your muscles and aching, and just then go on and go on and then go on. And this last 2 or 3 or 4 repetitions, that's what makes actually the muscle then grow.
If you focus on low reps all the time, so you're doing 1 rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, 5 rep maxes, versus someone doing 15 or 20 reps all the time, you're going to be training for strength in the low range versus more hypertrophy and more size in the high range. So I always get a kick out of it. People write me and they're like, they hire me. Oh yeah, I'm training really hard. I always go heavy. I'm trying to gain size. I go really heavy. I do sets of 5. And I'm like, you're trying to gain size and you're doing sets of 5? That's powerlifting. That's to be strong, not big. My rep ranges are 10 plus almost all the time because I'm not focused on strength. I'm focused on building muscle to the best of my ability.
It's many bodybuilders do include a lot of powerlifting and training in lower rep ranges. But that's not really the best way to achieve hypertrophy. It's a great way to get stronger, but making your muscles bigger, it's not necessarily going to be the way to do it. Again, you'll likely get stronger with this approach, but you're also going to put yourself at a much greater risk of injury. And of course, if you get injured, you can't train, you can't grow. The advice Joe is giving Tony seems to be more oriented towards powerlifting as opposed to bodybuilding. And at least from my point of view, muscle building and bodybuilding are kind of synonymous things. And bodybuilding is, you work in higher rep ranges, not necessarily these absurdly low rep ranges. That's, again, more oriented towards powerlifting. So I guess it does depend on what Tony's goals are directly, but all we really know based on this is that he wants to put on muscle. And again, I don't think training in these rep ranges is going to be the best way for him to do that. So my takeaway here is Joe's advice on how to get big muscles is to basically force feed yourself till you're going to explode and ego lift in absurdly low rep ranges. As a personal trainer with a long history of successes and failures, I like to think that I have a good idea of how to build muscle. For longevity in your goals, I recommend training in an 8 to 15 rep range, aiming for failure in those rep ranges, and progressing in your lifts accordingly. And also, of course, be sure to get plenty of protein, water, stretch, rest, sleep as much as your schedule will allow. There are a lot of factors that determine muscle building. Also, do some research and experimentation to figure out how many calories you should be eating. Eat to maintain a body fat that allows you to have enough energy to stay on track with your workouts. Anyway, I love Joe Rogan. I'm not trying to be a hater at all. My point here is take advice with a grain of salt, including my own. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let's be friends. Hopefully I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
Bunch of things you got to do.
How do I do it?
Testosterone, growth hormone, and deadlifts.